So the DNC is officially over, and no one is really talking about Kamala's speech at all. The only thing people are talking about is Tim Walz's son. Because as Tim Walz was giving his speech, his son stood up crying, dramatically clapping, saying, "That's my dad! That's my dad!" Now, was the moment staged? Maybe. But it was heartfelt nonetheless. And I don't like Tim Walz at all. But I'm not so cold-hearted that I can't, see the beauty in the moment because it was a family moment. Now, with that being said, the Democratic Party is anti-family these days, so the moment is still hollow, but I think you all get what I'm trying to say. And I also understood the emotions in that moment. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't act that way, but I understand getting emotional. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Biden was running for president. Tim Walz wasn't even in the equation, and now, you're sitting here in the crowd, a massive crowd, watching your dad on stage giving a speech, possibly going to be the vice president of the United States. I understand being proud and overwhelmed with emotions in that moment. So I'm not going to blame the kid for that. And also, I've been hearing that this kid may have, some type of learning disorder or something. I don't want to place any labels on it, but I've been seeing discussions about that online, and maybe that's another reason why he was acting the way he was acting. But I mean, the DNC really felt like a massive cult meeting for me, and this was the only moment of humanity, but it was short-lived because after, he broke down crying, clapping, once Tim Walz finished his speech, his family came on stage. He gave his son a hug. And then this happened. I want you all to watch closely. It's like for a second there was a moment of, like I said, it was kind of a beautiful moment. A kid crying because he's so proud of his dad accomplishing something that very few people will accomplish. And listen, Tim Walz is a piece of crap. He has no business being there, but you get what I'm saying. It's still, a proud moment as a kid, right? Looking at your father there on that stage, possibly going to be vice president. And then, on the other hand, for Tim Walz, and listen, I don't agree with the guy's politics. I don't like him at all. But on a human level, you would think that for Tim Walz, this would be a beautiful moment for him as a father. You know what I mean? But this beautiful moment, it gets wiped away so quickly when you see this happen. Let's take a look. Now, of course, the mainstream media and most of the leftists that you'll see discussing this online, they're all going to show you the clip of Tim Walz's, son crying in the crowd. They're going to say, "Oh, we were crying too watching this." But everyone's trying to ignore that Tim Walz literally yanks his son right there on stage on live television. Everyone is watching. You all saw the video. There's no denying this. It happened, folks. And it's like you see the real side of Tim Walz. It's like in that moment when I'm seeing his son cry in the crowd, even though I don't like his father at all, I'm like, okay, this is a nice moment. This is a nice moment. And it's one of those moments where you're like, politics to the side. just on a human level, let's have some humanity. Okay, this is a nice father-son moment. And then a couple of minutes later, you see the real Tim Walz. You see that Tim Walz is, I guess, a father who is fed up with his child. He's aggravated with his son. He's aggravated with his son's condition. Because I don't know what his son's condition is, but they say that he's got various different conditions. I don't know. I haven't seen proof of this, and I'm not in this guy's life, so I don't want to place labels on him. But you see that Tim Walz is not that loving, kind father that deserves a son crying and clapping for him. Tim Walz is the father that's aggravated with the burden of his child, yanking him in this direction because he's tired of dealing with this. And it's just, I guess it's kind of fitting for the people that we're dealing with. Because it's like in that moment where you try to just view these people on a human level, quickly they remind you, hey, snap out of it. Remember who I am. Remember the monster I am. Remember the monstrous stuff that I push on society. And for any normal person, getting up there on that stage, you got all thousands of people, you got all these cameras going, cameras flashing. It's overwhelming. It would be overwhelming for a regular person with no conditions. It would be overwhelming for me. It would be overwhelming for you. So let's say you have a child that's maybe autistic or has ADHD or has this or has that. You have to be patient with that child as a parent, but we see that Tim Walz is not that patient father. He's not that patient parent. He'll try to act like he's the family man, the nice, loving, joyful warrior is what they call him. But behind the scenes, he's yanking his son around. Behind the scenes, he's tired of dealing with his son because his son has some type of issue or whatnot. And I think that's just disgusting. But like I said, true colors always show. And I know the mainstream media isn't going to show this clip, which is why I thought it was important to bring it to you all's attention. But for now, I want you all to let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And if you find yourself getting too worked up by all of this, remember, it's just political cinema.